This is KGL and welcome to Surviving the Aftermath. This will be an in-depth guide on how to survive 100% hardcore mode as of patch 1.2 Outposts. We'll go into details such as civilian information, economics, survival tactics, and optimized play. If you have any questions during this series or would like to see more detailed videos on particular buildings or units, please leave a comment. And remember to like this video and hit that sub button to see future up-to-date videos on Surviving the Aftermath. Part 1, Guided Options, Setup, and Overview. So here we'll go ahead and select New Game. Here you will be presented with the first option. You are about to enter the post-apocalyptic world where building a colony certainly has its challenges. The tutorial guides you to survive and thrive in the hostile environment and help learn the basic gameplay and interface game concepts. This option can be very useful, however unnecessary through the series. It can give you information on what to build next, colonist needs, and other useful information to help progress through your playthrough. Next, we'll go ahead and set the environment and options for our hardcore playthrough. Environment. There are only a few who remember the sparks that started it all. A chain reaction of global catastrophes wiped out most of the planet's population and made people turn against each other. Those who are left must now survive the aftermath in this post-apocalyptic world. We are given 3 options. Cities are demolished but nature prevails. Temperate and humid with fertile soil of 40%. The world is desolate and unforgiving. Average temperature and humidity with fertile soil of 25%. The planet is a barren wasteland. Hot and dry climate, fertile soil of 10%. Each of these options will help set up the basis of what type of climate we will start in. Because this is going to be a 100% hardcore playthrough, we are going to go with the planet is barren wasteland. Catastrophes. The destruction of unimaginable scale can be seen throughout the entire planet. Nature's delicate cycle was broken and bombarded of different catastrophes that never stopped. Once lush areas turned into dry, irradiated dust bowls that now cover the land. The worst has passed and it's time to rebuild. Occasional catastrophes with contamination level of 20%. It's still a dangerous world, but we will prevail. Common catastrophes with a contamination level of 35%. It feels like the apocalypse has never ended. Frequent catastrophes, contamination level of 60%. Resources. Everyone has their breaking point. Eventually it is not enough just to survive throughout the day. People need hope and there's finally some. It has been a long road to get here, but that which it was before can now be left in the past. The indestructible bunker collapse. Plentiful of restarting resources. The trusted car finally broke down. Average started resources. After walking for ages, this is where they stop. Scarce starting resources. These next 3 options will determine the starting size of our colony. Hardy individuals will thrive in this world. 8 adults, 4 children. Band of survivals able to care for themselves. 7 adults, 3 children. Group of ambiguous misfits. 6 adults and 2 children. We're going to go ahead and select challenges mostly affect your outer world. So here are the next 3 options. Some challenges are to be expected. Easy exploration, scattered bandit groups. Numerous challenges are assured. Hard exploration and organized bandits. Insurmountable challenges as face you. This is the apocalypse. Plenty of hardened bandits. We want all the bandits. Next, the Gatekeeper. Life is unfair, but sometimes it feels like you're not alone, whether it is an invisible guardian or just pure fate, but it sure feels like someone is watching over you. The path is challenging, but worth the risk. Architect, lenient and helpful. It is a tough road, but walk never unfair. Survivalists, challenges but fair. Suffering or success. Chaotic, no restriction, anything is possible. And the next couple of options are just selecting your colony colors and emblems. We are then given a name, which we can randomly generate, or you may type in to be whatever you wish. Next, we are given a summary of our game mode, and here we can go ahead and start the game. The very first thing you're going to do as you enter the game is push spacebar. This will pause your game. Let's take a minute to familiarize ourselves with the interface. In our lower left corner, we have our time. You can see our current day is 0. Next we have the time of day. We start at dawn, day, dusk, night. We have play, 2x, 3x, pause. We can then use Q and E to rotate. We can use our middle mouse button to zoom in and out. And we could use space and click to drag around the world. These are our primary ways of navigation. In the center, we have menu, radio stations, help, build menu, statistics, specialists, and tech tree. We'll start with our menu. This will just bring up our basic menu where we can save and load our game. Photo mode, which will give us a nice mode to take photos in. We have our radio stations, which will give us our different types of songs that will play in the background. We can also have the option to shut it off. Here's our help menu that can give us various information on what to do if we get lost. Our primary build menu. Statistics about our colony. We have overviews, needs, colonists, resources, buildings, and graphs. We will all take a detailed look at this later as we progress through the game. We have our specialists menu, which we can also take a look at later, and our tech tree. Alrighty everyone, let's take a look at what will help us most early game. First, we have advanced farming. Here we can unlock large farms, which will allow us to have better control over our food production early game. This will also help build colony size without running out of food. Alternative proteins, protected crops, boring methods, delicacies, chef training are all very late game techs that we will not need to rely or focus on for this hardcore playthrough. I'm sure as more things are implemented into the game, the importance of these items will become greater. For now, you can research and utilize whichever path you think will best suit yourself. Next, let's take a look at production. As of patch 1.2, everything in production is important. We now have methods late game to gather large quantities of material. Having each of these areas research will be beneficial to us by late game. Out of everything we want here first, however, would be the energy production one and energy storage. We need to be able to do radiation cleanup so we can expand our colony effortlessly and with ease late game. This will help prevent excessive radiation sickness within our work area and colony. Now, let's take a look at colony. Communal living will be important for surviving catastrophic events such as radiation and pandemics. Emergency shelters will not protect our colonists at all during these events, so establishing shanties and tenements as soon as possible will be hugely helpful for ensuring our survival. Education is only helpful if you're taking in civilians with large quantities of children. This will help increase the growth rates at which they become useful in your colony. Early game, this is not as important as it is in late game. Lastly, we have remembrance. This will allow us to unlock paved roads, which will increase our walk speed by 50%. This will help us as our resource gathering. Everything else is useful and up to you on how you utilize it. However, it is not necessary as of patch 1.2. Let's go take a look at security. Under security, we have general storage. This will help store items that we find as we explore the outer world with our specialists. And most importantly, hazmat engineering. Under here, we'll find the environmental station and nuclear waste storage. These are our two first priorities in getting operational as quickly as possible. The sooner we can clean up our localized nuclear waste, the easier it will be to reduce our radiation contamination and sickness. Lastly, we have exploration. Here we have bartering. Bartering will give us trade posts so that we can create trade routes between other civilizations that we discovered. Frontier outposts will allow us to create drop-off points in the outer world for our resources. Finally, we have disaster forecasting. To be honest, this is going to be useless to us because we know catastrophic events are going to happen often and all the time. Some of the items that we did not look over would be 1. Reinforced gauge, which I'm not sure is currently active as of patch 1.2. Next would be centralized repairs. This will be useful for us late game. As we grow our colonies, it will be easy for us to establish and quickly deploy repair crews that can repair buildings that get destroyed during catastrophic events. Lastly, we have medical centers. This will help establish a large centralized area for our colonists to get healed in. Late game, this can be important, however, early to mid game, this is pretty much useless to us and requires a large amount of power to use. Lastly, we have comfortable housing, which can be very useful to us late game, but requires so much resources that to early to mid game is not even worth using. Knowledge preservation, aggression release, and couch potato are all different things that can help increase our happiness. And that is a basic overview of our tech tree. In the lower right hand corner we have our trade menu. As we explore the outer world, we'll find colonies that we can create trade routes with. Next we have our world map. As we get colonists to visit our colony, we'll get explorers that can go out and explore these grayed out areas and discover new areas to pick up world resources, bandits, and other colonies to trade. Next, let's take a look at the top resource bar. The first resource would be our happiness. Right now we have a negative 160 happiness due to the fact that we're homeless. We'll fix this later and we'll look at it more in depth later in game as we progress. Here we have our colonists. We can look at how many colonists we have that are working or carriers or children or adults. Note that only adults can be workers or carriers. Children are essentially useless and need to be taught in schools, grow up over time. Next we have our food resource. This is in days, how much food we consume in day. So for every civilian we have, we consume 1 food per day. Next we have our water resource, our energy output, which we'll come back to late game. Next we have our starting primary resources, which will be our building materials. We got planks, concrete, plastics, metal. Then we have our secondary advanced build materials, which will be our recyclables, our parts, our components, electronics, and fun boxes. Next we have our civilian consumable items, which will be tools and clothing. After that we have medicine and science points. That will be the basic overview of our interface and all our resources. Now that we have a general idea on where everything is, let's go ahead and take a look at our statistics. We're going to go into our colonists, and we're going to immediately look at what our health is. If everything looks good, we can start the game as normal. If we find someone here that is not 100% health, we should take a detailed look at them and learn why. To do that, you can just click on the person and it will bring up a detailed view of that person's traits and why they might be losing health faster than others. Knowing what each colonist has as a trait is important, and if we can min-max each of these traits, we can definitely ensure our survival long term. The very last thing we're going to take a quick look at is our F11 key. If you go ahead and push F11, you'll notice you can cycle through some different overlays. We're going to take a look at the first overlay. Green area is area that we can plant our crops in and gather water. Blue area is prime for water. Yellow area is for building. We can push F11 again. Next, you notice our red will indicate our nuclear waste, our metal, and other impassable materials. These can be cleaned up or moved, so that can be gathered with our stockpiles or our food storage. We can go ahead and push F11 again. This will give us our elevation data. Here we have impassable terrain, deep terrain, level, climate, and that is a quick overview of our menu, options, tech tree, and other information that we need to get started with for surviving the aftermath. Up next will be the basics and foundations of Day 0 start.